One of the little chores that most people have to deal with, and it just comes up, is as simple as switching your line on your reels, your main line. I use braided line, and most of us that use braid these days, especially when we're float fishing, you don't have to change it nearly as frequently as we used to with the monofilament. But one thing that can really extend the life of your braid is, instead of actually changing it, because it's about 100 on my reels, it's about 120 yards of braid. If you reel it onto an empty spool, it'll actually be, all that line on the bottom will be brand new. It'll still have the coating, it should still float well. So what I like to do is, if I ever break an old reel or something like that, I maybe throw the reel away, but I always keep the spools. So when I have a whole bunch of other empty spools from old reels, and I can just switch them out on my current reels that I'm using. So like I have an empty spool right here, and this one is pretty worn out, the line on this reel. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna pull it off here, and I'm going to switch the reels, and I'm going to reel it right onto this spool. So I have all that line that's been used right here is all buried in the bottom of this spool, because I'll probably never see that bottom 30 or 40 yards of line again. And that 30 or 40 yards is all that's worn out on this one. So anyway, I'm going to do that real quick, and we're going to get this spool on a reel, and I'm going to get it all reeled off onto the other one. I don't have any, like a stick to run through here to have someone hold it to let the line peel off the spool really evenly. So what I like to do, one of the easiest ways to do this, especially if you're by yourself and you're at home and have the ability to do it, is I just put it in a drawer and shut the drawer, because it lets the spool spin out and you can reel it right off the spool. It tends to work pretty well. So we're going to take that one from the old spool, and we're going to run it through the first couple eyes on our reel, or excuse me, first couple eyes on the rod, and then down to the reel. Make sure you open the spool when you tie it on there. So open it on there. And then I tie a little, and I don't really know the name of it, it's just a little slip knot, but I twist it about 4 or 5 times to attach the line of the spool, and go underneath and then back through the loop I created. And when I pull on that, it cinches down to the reel, and it'll tighten down right to that spool. Now this part is really important. I usually get my little tag end out and just cut that little extra tag, because I don't need that anymore. I don't want it to get in the way when I'm casting later. This part's really important. I use a little bitty piece of Scotch tape, and if you use that tape and you lay it right over your line, you stick your line to your spool. Now that doesn't seem like much, and it might not be that big of a difference, but when you're fishing and it's extremely cold outside, I've had more than one time where all my braid has actually got wet and then froze, and if you don't tape it, it'll just sit there and spin in a circle. The braid will freeze like an ice cube, and it'll sit there and spin. If you tape it, it'll lock that line to the spool, so no matter how cold it is, no matter how frozen your braid is, it won't spin around your spool. It's a weird little problem, but it happens. So now we're going to take it there, flip my spool over, and I'm going to be able to reel that line on there tight, and my spool that I'm taking it off of is just shut in this drawer so it can't get away. One thing I like to do that's real important when you're doing this is I use my hand to keep a little bit of tension on the reel. I like to tighten the drag all the way so I get that line on there nice and tight, and I can sit there and just spin it right on that reel. Because these reels are the same size reels, they're both 3000s, I know that that full reel should be totally full on this reel. Shouldn't be any problem, so I know they're going to hold the same amount of line. The spool size is the same. And if you notice the line here, the color is much more yellow. It's less white. It's because all this line that is coming on here is new. It hasn't been out, it hasn't been bleached by the sun. This is still line that hasn't been used. It's just been basically holding the place at the bottom of the spool. A lot of guys like to use backing, but I just flip the reels over every year and call it good. Or every couple of years, I suppose. Oh, there we go. And we got to the end of the spool. Now this one's, oh, there's my tape from the last time I peeled it off there. And we can clip that one. And now I got another completely full reel with good line that hadn't barely been used.